All right, everybody, this is episode 11. We have trains in the Caribbean, we've got news from 3 different continents, and we have a freight train drag race.
This is Railroad Showcase.
For our feature this week, we're going to the Caribbean. Barbados has its first train in 80 years. We're going to review some websites and our 8 favorite videos about these Barbadian trains. These videos were posted variously by Glen Beadon, Mull 1372, AdrianSinckler, Steam and Engines, the National Publishing Company Limited, and the St. Nicholas Abbey itself. Construction of the original Barbados Railway started in 1877 and took 6 years to complete the 24 miles from Bridgetown to Belle Plaine, St. Andrews. It was originally 3.5-foot gauge, running English locomotives. In 1898, it was re-gauged to 2.5 foot and started running Baldwin engines. With the exception of a few interruptions, the line ran until 1937. But let's back up about 18 years in our timeline and travel back to Europe. In 1914, Arnold Jung Locomotive Fabrique was building a 2.5-foot gauge 0440T tank engine that was destined for decades of use on a sugar plantation in Java. It was given the Danish name Jeper. After a long, hard life in Java, it was bought by the Stratford Barn Railway in England. Starting in 2017, a year's worth of planning laid the groundwork for the St. Nicholas Heritage Railway.
And we are hoping that it will be completed by the end of 2018, and it will be an added attraction to the northern section of the island, and we hope that it adds something to the tourism industry. So the concept really of the train station, aside from its desire to really broaden the base of our visitors to St. Nicholas, is really a desire to extend the attraction beyond the actual main plantation house here. And one of the most iconic views and locations for visitors to experience is actually Cherry Tree Hill. And the idea really is to give the visitor an experience that is varied, from open field journeys to wooded mahogany areas here, and then into this disused quarry which has beautiful rock faces. And then finally along the avenue to Cherry Tree Hill.
As track was being laid in 2018, Stratford Engineering fully restored the locomotive. Here she is being tested on Stratford's temporarily dual-gauged track.
Smell that. Wonderful. So this is the engine and steam trial test here, number 5 at Stratford Barn, and I'm told that in a couple of days' time, once the tests have been completed, she'll be put into a container and she'll be heading out to Barbados across the Atlantic.
Can you fix the knob?
Yes.
Yeah, front lovely.
Well, what's it in here?
Crossheads?
Crossheads in there.
That's true.
The St. Nicholas Heritage Railway is about a mile long and took about $1 million to build. Their first motive power was a 1971 diesel named Badger. After taking delivery of their rebuilt tank engine, they were able to run steam for the first time in February of 2019. Their 3 riding cars hold up to 40 people with standing passengers, so each train has the potential for 120 ticket sales. The train is expected to become a major attraction with cruise ship passengers and should double the number of visitors to St. Nicholas.
Jacobean architectural masterpiece, really. And it became obvious at some point in time, whereas as a heritage attraction, it could work very well, but we needed to find a way in the business plan of making it sustainable. First of all, we're starting with an amazing 1890 mill from Fletcher in England. And this mill is really remarkable that it still exists today, because there used to be many in the island, and now it's pretty much the last one in the English-speaking Caribbean. Have a 10-year-old, a 15-year-old, which is really excellent, and also we have a white rum, which we produce here off the still, and is the old classic Barbadian rum, white rum.
After much anticipation, the Union Pacific Steam Program has announced the running schedule of 844 and Big Boy 4014. Number 844 will make the run from Cheyenne to Ogden over 2 days, April 27th and 28th. The following weekend, 4014 will take 5 days to make the journey. Saturday, May 4th, there will be a half-hour christening ceremony at 9:30. Then she will run to Rawlins, Wyoming. Sunday, she'll run from Rawlins to Rock Springs. Monday, from Rock Springs to Evanston. Tuesday, she'll take the day off. Wednesday, she'll run from Evanston to Ogden. UP's big Golden Spike event will be in Ogden, Thursday, May 9th at 10:30. If you're planning on going, make your plans now, and be sure to stay safe.
Sadly, we need to report that on Sunday the 10th this month, Charles MUTSCHLER, our apologies if we're mispronouncing the name, was killed in a tragic automobile accident around 7:30 p.m. He was an archivist and interim dean of Eastern Washington University Libraries. He had a 37-year career at Eastern Washington University, most of which was spent as an archivist. But that was just a part of how those in the Cheney County community knew him. He also served as the chairman of the Cheney Historic Preservation Society and president of the Cheney Depot Society, also having spent decades working closely with the Inland Empire Railway Historical Society. Those who knew him and worked with him had very good things to say about him, many listing his kindness and penchant for storytelling as some of his most notable qualities.
Siemens just presented their new Vectron dual-mode locomotives to potential customers. The Vectron series was previously available in 4 different configurations: diesel, DC electric overhead, AC electric overhead, and multi-power, which could switch between AC and DC power. With this new locomotive, Siemens has made it possible for the engine to switch from diesel to electric overhead. In Germany, where these engines will mainly be marketed, over 60% of the lines are electrified, but the remaining 40% still requires many of the locomotives to be diesel, even though the electricity is much more efficient and environmentally friendly. They estimate that this engine could save the German operators 53% of energy and maintenance costs, while reducing CO2 emissions by 950 tons a year at the same time when compared to the existing diesels. They hope to have the final tests and certifications finished in coming months and are seeking orders that they promise will be filled by the fourth quarter of 2020.
Railway Age magazine has just released their picks for the 10 under 40 list of young railroad professionals. They come from railroads, shippers, and the public sector, and half of them are women. If you want to see who they are, you can find the article on railwayage.com.
In June 2014, a 13-year-old boy and 3 of his friends were trespassing in the Tyne Yard Depot near Birtley, UK. After climbing atop a rail car, he was electrocuted, ultimately resulting in the loss of parts of both legs. Now, almost 5 years later, the Newcastle Crown Court has fined DB Cargo UK, who leases the site, £2.7 million, or $3.6 million, for their systematic failings in preventing trespassers onto the yard. The court claims that much could have been done to warn others and keep them out, hoping this example serves to keep awareness up, preventing such incidents.
AMTRAK has just announced interest in starting a new service between Minneapolis and the twin port cities of Duluth, Minnesota and Superior, Wisconsin. This project could cost up to $600 million. The line would make use of an existing BNSF corridor and run 4 daily round trips at up to 90 miles an hour. While an expected date was not set, they do estimate an initial ridership of 750,000 passengers a year, with potential growth up to 1 million.
Logan, New Mexico, was experiencing extremely high winds last week. On Wednesday the 13th, a freight train pulling intermodal was crossing a bridge over the Canadian River, just outside of Logan, when 26 cars were derailed, many ending up in the canyon around the river. With sustained winds of almost 60 miles an hour and gusts up to 85 miles an hour, the local sheriff's department says that wind was a contributing factor. This favorite find is a mainline drag race caught on camera several years ago by Central Penn Rail Productions. 2 Norfolk Southern intermodals were dispatched in the same direction of the double-track mainline. This video now has 1.8 million hits on YouTube. It was a drag race. Get it? Drag race?
Okay, good. That's good. Okay, so I really thought that this was a neat idea. A rest home in the town of Bradford in West Yorkshire, England, is taking their residents on a train ride.
Residents like going out and seeing trains, but unfortunately some of them they're not able to get out, so we decided to bring it here for them, and this is the end result that we've got.
It feels like we're on the train. It does.
And the scenery, it's quite authentic, you know, it looks as though you're on a real train.
Seeing their faces when they come in. And
the facility has remodeled a room to resemble the inside of a diner, complete with a moving view out the windows, a curved roof line at the entry, and its own ticket office.
The Tuolumne County Visitors Bureau decided to do a really nice promotional piece on the Sierra Railroad. Well, properly it should be called Railtown 1897, but I still think of it as the Sierra Railroad. And it features George Sapp, so it's complete.
Specialist here at the Railtown State Park facility here in Jamestown, California. This is a Department of Parks and Recreation actually owns and operates this park with the assistance of the California State Railroad Museum Foundation. They make this whole thing possible. Well, the people of California decided to preserve it in the early 80s. It became a state park. 1982, the California State Parks took over the operation and ownership of Railtown. This is a very unique facility. It has a lot of original structures, including this roundhouse. It has the turntable, and out of the 6 stalls in the roundhouse, 5 of the stalls hold equipment that was associated with this railroad. So it's not a museum by standard principles. You know, mostly museums, they grab their arms around the collection and then fence it off and charge admission. Well, this place just got old. This locomotive was built for this railroad in 1922. The number 3 came here and actually helped build the railroad in 1891. So it just goes on and on. This is not false history. This is not smoke and mirrors. This is the real deal.
My name is Matt Sagesser, and I am one of the conductors here at Railtown 1897 State Historic Park. The significance of the railroad, bringing the railroad in here, allowed them to connect with the world via the National Railroad Network. Allowed them to get produce, cattle. This was a big apple producing area. Sugar pine timber was very popular, very wanted for construction in San Francisco and stuff. So very important to the area, also hauling out mineral ores in the second gold rush of California. It's still viable, it still hauls lumber, it still brings propane up from the winter for the residents. So it's still a viable railroad, and it's still very important to the local community. It still provides jobs. Many years ago, even before it was a state park and it was still run by the Sierra, I came up here as a little child and rode the trains. had a great love for trains, so my parents brought me up here to ride the trains.
My name is Laura Houston, and I am the student brakeman for Railtown. My first experience at Railtown was crew for a day, actually. So they have crew for a day, and my husband and I got crew for a day, and we volunteered right after that, signed up as volunteers. Compared to when it was back in the day, it's about the same as it was. The main difference is the fact that back in the day, they didn't have many women doing it except during war years. During the war years, the guys were off fighting and the girls were doing the men's jobs. But once the guys came back, then it became mostly men again.
There's been generations of mechanics that have worked on this locomotive, all these locomotives, and everybody leaves a signature on what they touch. I mean, you can look at it, it's like, yeah, he had it figured out, And otherwise, sometimes you take it apart and you go, oops. So and I'm leaving my signature on these things. I was instrumental in putting this back together. I had a huge, wonderful team. We came together with about roughly 15 wrench turners. We all got together, and this is actually a complete rebuild in 2010, July of 2010.
My favorite part of doing this job, not only am I a conductor here, I also do maintenance. And so part of the fulfillment is working on the old equipment and learning trades that are basically have gone the way of robotics, computers. We do our own machine work. There's no CNC machines here. If we want a part, we have to make the part. It's not run down to your local auto parts store and say, yes, I need a new side rod for a steam locomotive. It doesn't happen. So part of the fulfillment here is being part of this, keeping this history alive and making it go, seeing it do things, and seeing people come here and be happy and excited about it.
So our last favorite find for this week is this photo from Reddit posted by user Elevator K-pop fan 271. Evidently, as AMTRAK's SURFLINER was getting ready to leave the station, someone wanted their photographs to be accurate. They told the engineer that the engine's number board had the wrong train number on it. So, the engineer obliged them by changing the number board. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in this week. Your patronage means more than you can imagine. The support of the Gold Spike and Silver Spike members will make all the difference. It keeps this show going.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate it.
See you next week.